morning sun had barely risen over the red earth when the market square began to stir with life. Traders arrived with their wares balanced expertly on their heads. Baskets of tomatoes, bundles of fabric, clay pots wrapped in raffia. The air filled with the familiar symphony of bargaining voices, the clanging of metal pans, and the sweet scent of roasting groundnuts mixing with the earthy smell of fresh vegetables. Mama Falmata was always the first to arrive at her corner stall. She was a formidable woman, tall and broad-shouldered, with a wrapper tied so expertly around her waist that it never came loose no matter how much she moved. Her trade was rice, imported, long grain that was the finest in 3 towns. People came from miles away just to buy from her, and she wore her success like a badge of honor. Good. "Morning, Mama," called out young traders as they passed. "Morning. Morning," she replied, her eyes already scanning her goods. She counted her bags with the precision of a bank clerk. 20 bags of the regular rice, 15% of the premium, and her pride and joy, 5 bags of the special aromatic rice that sold for almost double the price. Rich families ordered it weeks in advance for weddings and naming ceremonies. Across the aisle, separated by 3 stalls, was her longtime rival, Mama Kuti. Where Mama Falmata was tall, Mama Kuti was petite and quick, moving like a bird from customer to customer. She sold rice too, though everyone knew it wasn't quite as fine as Mama Falmata's. What Mama Kuti lacked in product quality, she made up for in aggressive pricing and a sharp tongue that could negotiate a profit from a stone. The 2 women had been competing for 15 years, ever since Mama Kuti had set up shop and started cutting into Mama Falmata's monopoly. They barely spoke to each other, communicating only through pointed remarks loud enough for half the market to hear. By mid-morning, the market was at its peak. Children wove between the stalls, vendors called out their prices, and the air shimmered with heat. Mama Falmata was in the middle of serving her 5th customer when she noticed something was wrong. "Where is my special rice?" she muttered, counting the bags again. Her heart began to pound. 4, only 4 bags? She counted again, her hands trembling slightly. No mistake. 1 50-kilogram bag of her premium aromatic rice, worth more than she made in 3 days of regular sales, was gone. Thief! The word tore from her throat like thunder. Thief in this market. The market fell silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Customers froze. Every head turned toward Mama Falmata's stall. "My rice," she continued, her voice rising higher. "My special imported rice. Someone has stolen it." Her sister-in-law, Auntie Halima, who helped at the stall, rushed to her side. "Are you sure? Maybe you miscounted." "Miscounted?" Mama Falmata's eyes flashed. "Do you think I'm a fool? I know my stock. That rice was here when I went to buy breakfast about 30 minutes ago. Now it's gone." A crowd began to gather. In a small market where everyone knew everyone, theft was a serious matter. It wasn't just about the loss, it was about trust, about the unspoken code that kept the community functioning. Mama Falmata's eyes swept across the gathered faces, and they landed, as inevitably as rain finding ground, on Mama Kuti's stall across the way. "I should have known," she said, her voice dripping with accusation. Only one person in this market would be low enough, jealous enough, desperate enough. "Careful what you say next," Mama Kuti's voice cut through the murmuring crowd like a knife. She had stood up from her stool, her small frame somehow seeming larger in her indignation. "If you're about to accuse me of something, you better have proof." "Proof?" Mama Falmata laughed bitterly. "Who else would want my rice? Who else complains every day about how much business I take from them? Who else can't keep track of their own goods?" Mama Kuti shouted back. "Maybe you sold it and forgot. Maybe you never had 5 bags to begin with. Don't blame your carelessness on me." "Careless? Careless?" Mama Falmata took a step forward, and Auntie Halima had to grab her arm. "I have never lost a single grain of rice in 15 years of trading. But you've been looking for ways to destroy my business since the day you arrived." Mama Kuti's 2 daughters appeared behind their mother, their faces set in identical expressions of outrage. "Our mother is an honest trader," the eldest declared. "How dare you accuse her?" "Honest?" scoffed Mama Falmata's sister-in-law. "Everyone knows she undercuts prices by mixing old rice with new." "That's a lie!" shrieked Mama Kuti's younger daughter. "Your family are the liars, thieves calling others thieves." Within minutes, the market had divided. Mama Falmata's regular customers rallied to her defense. She was reliable, respected, a pillar of the market community. But Mama Kuti had her own supporters, traders who had felt intimidated by Mama Falmata's dominance, customers who appreciated Mama Kuti's lower prices and friendly haggling. Arguments erupted like brush fires across the market square. Voices rose, fingers pointed, and soon nobody was buying or selling anything. They were too busy taking sides in the Great Rice War. Team Falmata gathered on the eastern section of the market, their faces grim with righteous anger. Team Kuti occupied the west, muttering darkly about false accusations and wounded reputations. The neutral zone in the middle became a no-man's land, where only the bravest or most foolish dared to tread. Watching all of this from her grandmother's fabric stall was 14-year-old Amina. She was supposed to be learning the trade, but the drama unfolding before her was far more interesting than memorizing prices for Ankara cloth. Amina was a peculiar girl. At least, that's what people said. She asked too many questions, noticed too many details, and had an unfortunate habit of pointing out things that made adults uncomfortable. Her grandmother often sighed and said, "That child sees too much." As the quarrel escalated, with both families now threatening to take the matter to the village chief, Amina found herself troubled by what she was seeing. She knew both Mama Falmata and Mama Kuti. She'd bought rice from both of them for her grandmother. Neither woman seemed like a thief to her. "Grandma," she said quietly, "may I go look around?" Her grandmother, exhausted by the shouting, waved her hand. "Go, go. This foolishness will last all day anyway. Nobody's buying anything." Amina slipped away from the stall and began her investigation. She had read detective stories borrowed from the small library at her school, and she'd always imagined herself solving mysteries. Now she had a real one. First, she went to Mama Falmata's stall. The woman was still holding court with her supporters, recounting the crime with increasing embellishment. Amina knelt down near the bags of rice, pretending to adjust her sandal while actually examining the ground. There, faint impressions in the dusty earth. Footprints, but not the bare feet or sandals that most market women wore. These were from shoes. Training shoes with a distinctive zigzag pattern on the sole. She followed the prints carefully. They led away from Mama Falmata's stall, weaving between other vendors, heading toward the back of the market where the storage sheds were. The prints were accompanied by drag marks, as if something heavy had been pulled along the ground. The trail led to a patch of disturbed earth behind old Baba Garba's tool shed, where the footprints became confused, overlapping. Someone had stood here for a while, she thought. But why? What are you doing back here, small girl? Amina jumped. Baba Garba emerged from his shed, wiping oil from his hands. "Baba, did you see anyone come through here this morning? Maybe carrying something heavy?" The old man scratched his chin. Now that you mention it, yes. Mama Falmata's boy, the young one, Suleiman. He was carrying something in a large sack. I thought it strange because he looked worried, nervous, like he was doing something he shouldn't. Amina's heart began to race. What time was this? Oh, maybe an hour ago? Just after the morning rush started. She thanked him and continued following the trail. The footprints led out of the market entirely, onto the dirt road that wound toward the residential area of town. This was getting complicated. If Suleiman, Mama Falmata's own 17-year-old son, had taken the rice, it wasn't exactly theft, was it? But why would he hide it from his mother? And why was everyone at the market about to tear each other apart over it? Amina followed the road, asking discreet questions of people she passed. A woman washing clothes by the roadside had seen Suleiman. He went toward Mama Laraba's compound, she said. Poor woman. Since her husband died, she's been struggling so much. Mama Laraba. Amina knew her slightly, a widow with 3 young children who used to sell vegetables at the market until hard times forced her to stop. The family lived in a small compound at the edge of town. When Amina arrived at the compound, she found Suleiman sitting outside on a low stool, his head in his hands. He looked up as she approached, and guilt was written all over his face. "I know why you're here," he said quietly. "Does my mother know?" "Not yet," Amina said, sitting down beside him. "But the whole market is at war. Team Falmata versus Team Kuti. Your mother has accused Mama Kuti of stealing her rice." Suleiman groaned. "Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Why did you take it?" Amina asked gently. He was silent for a long moment. Then the story poured out of him. "I came to the market early this morning to help Mama set up, like always. On my way, I passed Mama Laraba's compound. Her children were sitting outside, and they looked so empty. Not sad, just empty. Like they'd given up on something. I asked Mama Laraba if everything was okay. She tried to smile and say yes, but I could see she was lying. Finally, she admitted they hadn't eaten properly in 3 days. She'd been too proud to ask for help, hoping she'd find work soon. But her youngest, he's only 5, he was getting weak. I didn't think. I just ran back to the market, grabbed one of Mama's rice bags and brought it here. I thought I could work extra hours, earn enough money to replace it before she noticed, but I should have known she counts everything." "Why didn't you just tell her?" Amina asked. "Your mother isn't a cruel woman." Suleiman shook his head. "You don't understand. Mama is generous, yes, but in her own way, in her own time. She gives to people at the mosque, at ceremonies, when everyone can see. But Mama Laraba is proud." She wouldn't want public charity. And if I'd asked Mama to help privately, she would have said that Mama Laraba should come to her herself, that pride is foolish when children are hungry. There would have been a whole thing, and meanwhile, those kids would have waited and suffered. So I just did it. I thought I was helping. Now I've started a war, Amina sat thinking. The sun was climbing higher, and by now the fight at the market had probably escalated further. She imagined families dividing, friendships breaking, the whole community fracturing over a misunderstanding. Come on, she said, standing up. We need to go back. What? No, Mama will kill me. She'll kill you more if this gets worse. And besides, Amina smiled slightly, I have an idea. They returned to the market to find chaos. The two sides had stopped, just short of physical violence, but the verbal warfare was intense. Mama Falmata was threatening to call the police. Mama Kudi was threatening to take Mama Falmata to court for defamation. Their families and supporters were escalating every accusation, every insult. Amina whispered her plan to Suleiman, then pushed him forward into the center of the crowd. I took the rice! Suleiman's voice rang out over the shouting. Silence fell like a hammer. Every person turned to stare at him. Mama Falmata's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, recognition, and finally shock. Suleiman, what are you saying? I took your rice, Mama. This morning. It was me. The crowd began to murmur. Mama Falmata pushed through to her son, and for a moment, Amina feared she might actually hit him. But instead, she grabbed his shoulders. Why? Why would you steal from me? From your own mother? I didn't steal it, Mama. I gave it away, gave IT away. Her voice could have shattered glass. To who? Why? Amina stepped forward. To Mama Laraba. Her children haven't eaten in 3 days. The crowd's murmuring changed tone. Amina continued, her voice steady and clear. Suleiman saw that a family in our community was suffering. He saw children going hungry, and he did what he thought was right. He helped them immediately, without waiting for permission or making a show of it. Yes, he should have asked. First. Yes, he should have told you the truth, Mama Falmata, but his heart was in the right place. She turned to address the whole crowd now. All of you have been fighting all morning. Team Falmata, Team Kudi, you were ready to destroy friendships, to break trust, to tear this market community apart. And over what? A misunderstanding. Not a crime, not malice, just a boy trying to feed hungry children. Mama Kudi stepped forward slowly. Is this true? There was no theft? Mama Falmata looked at her rival, and for the first time in years, something other than antagonism passed between them. Shame, perhaps, or recognition. No, Mama Falmata said quietly. There was no theft. My son was being foolish, but kind. Then I apologize, Mama Kudi said stiffly, for the things I said in anger. And you were right to be upset about your loss, even if you were wrong about who caused it. It wasn't a warm reconciliation, but it was a start. The crowd began to disperse, looking somewhat sheepish about their earlier passion for the fight. Mama Falmata turned back to her son. You and I will talk at home. There will be consequences for hiding the truth from me. Yes, Mama. But first, she said, her voice softening just slightly, we will go together to visit Mama Laraba. It seems there is a family in our town that needs help, and it seems I was so busy with my pride and my profits that I didn't notice. Amina watched as mother and son walked away together. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. Mama Kudi stood beside her. You're a clever girl, the older woman said. You solved a mystery the whole market couldn't figure out. Amina shrugged. I just looked at what was really there instead of what people assumed was there. Wise words. Very wise. Mama Kudi paused, then added, You know, maybe Mama Falmata and I have been assuming things about each other for too long, too. Over the following days, something remarkable happened. Mama Falmata, chastened by how her own success had blinded her to suffering nearby, organized a community fund at the market. Mama Kudi contributed to it, surprising everyone, and suggested they use it to help traders who fell on hard times. The two women didn't become friends exactly. They still competed, still bargained aggressively, still tried to outdo each other. But there was a new undertone of respect. And when they occasionally shared customers who wanted to compare prices, they no longer saw it as war, but as the natural rhythm of business. Mama Laraba, overwhelmed by the sudden outpouring of support, found work at the market once again. People made a point of buying from her, remembering how pride and shame had nearly starved her family in silence. Suleiman received punishment at home, extra chores for a month, but also grudging respect from his mother. You have a good heart, she told him, but next time, trust that I do too. Talk to me. We'll figure it out together. As for Amina, she went back to learning the fabric trade from her grandmother, but people at the market looked at her differently now. When disputes arose, they sometimes came to her, asking her to look at the situation with her clear eyes and sharp mind. The girl who solved the rice war, they called her. She didn't love the dramatic title, but she did love being trusted, being heard, being known as someone who looked for truth instead of taking sides. One evening, as the market wound down for the day, Amina sat at her grandmother's stall, helping to fold fabrics. Mama Falmata and Mama Kudi were closing their own stalls nearby. As they packed up, they actually spoke to each other. Just a few words about tomorrow's expected deliveries, nothing profound. But they spoke. Amina's grandmother noticed her watching. "You did a good thing, child." "I just told the truth, Grandma." "Ah, but knowing the truth and speaking it are two different things. You had the courage to do both." The old woman smiled. "This market needed someone to remind us what matters. Not whose rice is better, not who has more customers, but that we're all one community. When one person hurts, we all should feel it. When one person helps, we all benefit." Amina thought about this as she watched the market square empty, traders heading home to their families, the dust settling on the ground where so much drama had unfolded. She thought about Suleiman's impulsive kindness, about how quickly fear and anger had divided people, and about how truth, simple, honest truth, had brought them back together. Not every loss is a crime, she realized, and not every mystery has a villain. Sometimes the answer is right in front of us, hidden not by evil, but by our own assumptions and pride. As the sun set over the market, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Amina helped her grandmother lock up the stall. Tomorrow would bring new customers, new negotiations, and probably new dramas in the endless theater of market life. But it would also bring something else, a community a little wiser, a little more united, and a little more willing to look beyond the surface of things. All thanks to a missing bag of rice, a boy's secret kindness, and a girl who refused to pick a side until she knew the whole story.